Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to share with you 3 Christmas cards I've made. I was looking for some paper that was Christmas but not in the traditional Christmas colours, and I found this Kaisercraft paper called Christmas Jewel. So I'm going to make 3 cards today using that paper range. I haven't ever made mauve Christmas cards before, but I have to say I did enjoy it and I like the look of them. So I will probably make some more. I generally make my own card bases because I like to make 5 1/4 inch square cards and they're not always readily available. In this particular case I'm using a white card base, so I'm using a 240 GSM smooth white cardstock. I'm cutting it to 10.5 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and I'll score it at 5 1/4 inches, folding it in halves to make a square card. That is the size and the process I will take to make each of the 3 card bases in this video. I've chosen 3 papers from the range to make the background for this first card. I've chosen this purple one with the silver spot. It's called Winter Wonderland, and I've cut that 5 inches square. The next one I have cut to 4 3/4 inches square. That is called Holiday Wishes. The third one, which is the sort of greyish background with the purple and silver spots, is called Glimmering, and I've cut that to 4 1/2 inches. Now that I have all my layers, I'm going to use my Prima Distress tool and distress the edges of all of the papers, and then use my black ink cube to ink around each of those papers. I used double-sided tape to attach the bottom 2 layers to my card base. Before I attach the top layer, I take some 3/8 inch silver ribbon and wrap that around one of the edges. So I'm attaching it sort of, probably about 3/8 of an inch in from the edge on one edge. Securing that at the back with some tape, and I'm going to tie a knot in the front and then attach it to the front of the card. Using my reverse tweezers is very handy to keep things in place while I'm trying to tie a knot. I'm going to use this poinsettia die, and I'm going to cut 2 of each of the 4 sizes and 2 of the leaves, I think. Yes, 2 of the leaves. So I'm going to cut those out, then I'm going to use my ink cube to ink around the edge of each and every one of those petals and leaves. Then I'm going to use my shaping tool, my flower shaping tool, and an old stubby holder to shape the poinsettia petals. To shape the petals, I use that ball tool, as I said, and I just push into the back of each one of the petals, and that gives it a curve so that the petal is risen in the middle, and it just makes a nice shape. It's not hard to do, and I usually use a circular motion, but I have seen it done where you can just pull straight out, and that gives it more of a straighter curve, more like a straight line down the middle of your flower. But yeah, I tend to use this circular motion on the back. I have also seen it done on the front of petals, and so that makes your petals sink down. But I prefer this one that makes them rise up. So I'm going to do that for all of my flowers. Now that I've done that to all of my petals, I'm going to use my liquid glue. I use art glitter glue. I find it's really good. It dries fairly quickly, but you do have just a few seconds to move things around if you want to, and when it dries absolutely matte, and you don't even know that there was glue there if you happen to get it in the wrong spot. Anyway, what I'm doing is I'm gluing each layer on top of each other, and I'm staggering the petals so that they're not sitting on top of each other, but it makes your flower look a lot fuller. I'm going to do that with all of the layers. I'm going to decide where I want to put my poinsettia on my card, and then I'm going to use my glue to hold it in place. I'll also add the leaves. For the sentiment on the card, I'm going to use a sentiment from the Paper Rose Christmas sentiment sheets. I bought this last year and it has got so many sentiments in it. I think you could use it for 5 years and still not run out of it. You can add foil to these sentiments and run them through your Mink or your laminator and they will foil because they are laser printed. Now I'm going to attach that to a scrap of the silver paper that I used to create the poinsettia, so to mat that, and then I'm going to cut that out with a very fine border and use foam squares to attach that to my card. I'm going to add some Mauve jewel drops in Sea Breeze to the centre of my poinsettia. For a little bit more sparkle on the front of the card, I'm going to use these Picket Fence Moonstone sequins just randomly here and there, and to apply them I'm going to use my liquid glue and my Silhouette Pick Me Up tool. I have these Kaisercraft rub-ons in my stash. They're called Christmas cards. That's the name of the pack. I'm going to, well, I've had them for so many years, I'm sick of them laying around, so I'm going to use those on the inside of my card. I've cut one out that I want to use and I'm going to rub that onto a piece of plain light mauve cardstock, and then once I have got my rub-on firmly in place, I'm going to mat that onto a piece of darker purple cardstock. Once I've done that, I'll ink around the edge and attach it to the inside of my card. Then I took my Uniball fine line black pen and doodled a border around the inside of the card and around the top layer at the front of the card. And that completes the first card for today's video. For my next card, I wanted to have some purple paper with a silver glitter stripe. So I took my Heavy Gell Gloss medium and I mixed with that some superfine silver glitter. Once I had that mixture, I put that through a stencil, which is a uniquely creative stencil called Arty Stripes, and I set that aside to dry. Now the reason I used the Heavy Gel was because it dries clear, so when it's dry all you're going to see is the glitter, but the gel holds the glitter in place and it doesn't come off. I cut my purple cardstock to size before I applied my glitter paste, and it's 4 3/4 inches square. I cut a piece of the Holiday Wishes pattern paper so that it is 5 inches square. That's going to go between my card base and the purple glitter paper that we've just made. I use this large bauble die, which is about 3.5 inches in diameter, to cut one from the Holiday Wishes paper and 2 from white cardstock. And I'm going to layer those on top of each other to go on the front of my card. I also used the dark purple cardstock, the plain cardstock, the same one that I used to make the striped cardstock, to cut my Merry Christmas greeting. I'm going to use this die. I don't know what brand it is. I got a feeling it came with a magazine one time. I'm going to assemble all of those together and ink around the edge before I start attaching things to the front of my card. I decided I wanted to put some ribbon through the top of my bauble, so I cut the paper ribbon off of it and used some of the same ribbon that I used on the first card to thread through that hole at the top of the bauble. I'll use double-sided tape now to attach all of my layers to the front of the card. I'll use glue to attach my bauble and to attach the ribbon to the card. I'll use my reversible tweezers to just hold that ribbon in place while the glue grabs. I'll also attach my sentiment to the front of the bauble. I had a little strip of that glitter paper that we created left over, so I attached that to a little strip of the holiday wishes and then attached that to the right hand edge of the inside of the card. I also added another one of those rub-ons from the Kaisercraft Christmas cards rub-on sheet. I also added some silver sequins to the front of this card just to finish it off. So on to our final card for today. I'm going to cut a piece of the dark purple cardstock 5 inches square, a piece of holiday wishes that's 4 3/4 inches square, and a piece of winter wonderland that is 4 1/2 inches square. I'm going to use this set of 3 Christmas trees die to cut from some white cardstock that I used up the leftover of that glitter paste that I used on the previous card. So I just used the same stencil and the glitter paste and did put that onto some white cardstock. So I'm going to use that to cut those Christmas trees out of. I used my black ink cube once again to ink around the edge of all of the pattern papers and the Christmas trees. I used double-sided tape to attach the bottom 2 layers of pattern paper to the card front. I don't actually attach the top layer just yet. Before I attach that top layer, I'm going to add a strip of the same ribbon that I used on the other 2 cards, and I'm going to attach it probably about 1.5 inches up from the bottom of the purple cardstock. I just want something for my Christmas trees to sit on. I don't want them to look like they're just floating in midair. So I'm going to use double-sided tape to attach that ribbon. I apply the tape to the cardstock and wrap it around the back because I want the ribbon to go around the back, and then I lay the ribbon on top of the double-sided tape. That way I know it's going to be nice and straight. Once I've done that, I go ahead and add that piece of cardstock to the front of my card. I use liquid glue to attach the Christmas tree so that they just sit on the top edge of the ribbon. The sentiment for this card is actually from the branding strip of the Winter Wonderland pattern paper. I'm going to mat that onto a piece of white cardstock and then attach it to the front of my card. The sentiment is attached to a piece of chipboard before it's attached to the card. To add a little bit more sparkle to the front of my card, I'm going to use this Scribbles, and it's called Glittering Silver. It's similar to the Scrapbook Pops or Nouveau Drops or Kinderglitz, that sort of thing. So I'm just adding that to the tops of the 2 cards that have, the tops of the 2 Christmas trees that haven't got a star on them. For the inside of the card, I add another one of those Christmas rub-ons. Also, for the inside, I cut 2 pieces of the Winter Wonderland, 1.5 inches, no, 1 1/4 inches by 5 inches, and 2 pieces of the Holiday Wishes, that 3/4 inch by 5 inches, inked the edges of all of them and then laid the smallest strip on top of the wider strip and then attached them to the inside of the card, one on the right hand edge and one on the left hand edge. All of the products that I've used in this video will be linked down below if I can find them. If I can't find them and I can find something similar, I will link that. So when I've finished adding these strips to the inside of the card, that finishes this card and that finishes my video for today. I have some stills and some close-ups coming up now, so stay tuned to see those. And if you're not already a subscriber, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I appreciate each and every subscriber that I have, and I just love to read your comments. So please, if you're that way inclined, please leave me a video and don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. I really appreciate all of the interaction that you give me. So if you're a subscriber, please click the bell and select all so that you're notified when I upload my next video. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope you can join me for my next video.